Mayang moves to attack and questions who said he could leave, but he retaliates, throws him away, and says he did. Mayang reflects on the speed of the recent movements, unable to divert his gaze for even a second. He curses, realizing that the opponent is also insignificant, considering this is all the renowned cultists had to offer. Mayang demands to know the identities of the individuals. As he moves to attack, the adversary remarks on his numerous questions for someone on the brink of death. Mayang retaliates with an attack of his own. The opponent questions if this is his true skill. Witnessing the attack, Mayang is shocked at its strength, realizing that his adversary is overpowering him in every aspect. Determined not to remain solely on the defensive, he employs the Crimson Fire Sword ultimate technique and the Killing Flame Sword to counterattack. Sahayan initiates an attack, noting that he is finally displaying some skill. Mayang observes that the attacks are coming from unpredictable angles, and he also notices the distinctive fist technique. Sahayan strikes with his fist, causing Mayang to recoil and spit out blood. Mayang realizes that Sahayan is from the Six-Blade Martial School and questions him about it. Sahayan confirms his identity, stating that he is indeed Sahayan, the fist master of the Six-Blade Martial School. Mayang acknowledges the accuracy of his earlier assessment, but is unable to move due to internal injuries. He bids him farewell and prepares to deliver a final attack with his illuminated fist. Suddenly, Sahayan finds his friend's lifeless body in his hands, shocked by the sight. He notices Qin Yo-woon standing in a house and questions if he is the person in question. Mayang addresses him as the Vice Lord. Sahayan wonders if he truly is the Vice Lord, reasoning that he should be attending the inner castle banquet at this moment, and his subordinates wouldn't have disclosed such information. He prepares to attack Mayang, stating that he supposes he has no other option but to kill him and make his departure. Qin Yo-woon intervenes, positioning himself to attack. Sahayan observes the deflection and proceeds to attack him. He recalls the flower grafting method, realizing that if he retreats now, the left guardian will perish, compelling him to exert all his strength in this confrontation. Sahayan notices that instead of being pushed back, he manages to push Mayang away through sheer force. The nanomachines notify him that they are automatically regenerating the internal organs damaged by external energy. He acknowledges that there's no way he would have emerged unscathed after such an ordeal. Qin Yo-woon inquires about the left guardian's condition. Mayang confirms that he is alright, able to move his body at least. Qin Yo-woon hands him a cloth and instructs him to take it, then to summon the Lord and the other council elders who should be near the entrance of the demonic academy. He assures Mayang that he can handle the situation and urges him to leave immediately. Mayang expresses understanding. Sahayan interjects, questioning who gave him permission to leave. Despite this, Mayang moves to depart, thinking to himself to hold on, as it won't be long. Sahayan approaches him and challenges his ability to evade capture. Qin Yo-woon swiftly moves to counterattack. Sahayan employs a fist technique against him, declaring that he won't allow him to escape. Qin Yo-woon quickly blocks the attack with his sword. Sahayan becomes enraged and insults him, asserting that his true adversary is himself. Sahayan thinks that if this guy had not just been inflicted with a serious internal injury, he wouldn't have been able to take it easy. He moves to attack him, but Qin Yo-woon quickly moves aside. He remarks that the guy is pretty quick to catch on, calling him a little rat. Qin Yo-woon asks about his connection to the Blade God. The guy replies that it's different from what that person said. They claim that no one would know anything. Qin Yo-woon thinks he knows what he's talking about, but this guy might be a part of the Six Blades Martial School. He states that if he knows the Blade God, then the demonic cult is indeed the true enemy of their school. They both look aside where some soldiers are coming. Sahayan comments that it won't be an easy escape and asks why he doesn't just cooperate and come with him so he can use him as a hostage to get out of there. He asks about the possibility of using him as a hostage. Sahayan moves to attack and states that he has no time to chit-chat. He observes the attack and considers that if he uses the Blade God's second technique, it has been perfectly converted into a fist technique, but there is no difference in its power. In order to block this, at the very least, he needs to use the 24 Demon Sword's fourth technique and Heaven's Sword Fortune to counterattack. He believes he is strong, but the 24 Demon Swords are slowly weakening. He attempts to counterattack and wishes to take him by surprise instead. Su Hyan attacks him with the fist technique. He curses, realizing he can't keep up with his variations. Su Hyan remarks that his Kai net is nothing against him and attacks him with full force. He observes that it's not damaging him and acknowledges that he's not bad, but he is superior to him in every way. He attempts to attack him again, and Qin Yo-woon becomes scared upon seeing his face. He beats him badly, causing Qin Yo-woon to spit out blood and fall behind. He remarks that this is not enough to kill him, but he deserves some praise. However, the sword demon's sword techniques will not work against him. Qin Yo-woon realizes that he already knows the techniques of the 24 demon swords. He concludes that this settles it once and for all, and the demonic cult cannot win against their school. He urges Qin Yo-woon to stop the futile resistance and just come with him. Qin Yo-woon hits his sword on the floor and asks if they think the cult can't beat their guys. He inquires if he still has something he wants to say. Qin Yo-woon utilizes his power and begins to heal. He is shocked to see this and thinks no way his wounds are healing and this kid is dangerous. He moves to attack and realizes he needs to kill him before he fully heals. Qin Yo-woon creates a sword with a metal piece that he obtains from a muti. He is shocked to see the sword. Qin Yo-woon employs heavenly demonic and sword art techniques to attack. He states that he believes he can beat him with just that and attempts to stop his attack, wondering how it is so powerful. Qin Yo-woon attacks him, injuring him badly. His face is covered with blood, and he states no way he doesn't believe this. He falls down, defeated by the sword technique. Qin Yo-woon remarks that's the price for insulting their cult. The scene shifts to the Demonic Academy Grand Martial Arts Training Ground, where Chen Yu-jong and Marikium arrive with some guards, and Lee Hwa Myung also arrives there. Chen Yu-jong asks where the enemy is. Lee Hwa Myung responds at the Precious Library. The Vice Lord and an intruder from the Six-Blade Martial School are in combat. He must hurry and then fall to the ground. A guard runs towards him to grab him. Marikium observes he seems to have fainted due to an internal injury and instructs Chen Yu-jong to wait. He asks what the meaning of this is. Whose way does he think he is blocking right now? Marikium kneels and says he will go first. He communicates through sound telepathy. Please watch his health. His internal injuries from his fight against that person have not yet healed. Meanwhile, Chen Yu-jong says he understands and orders the 4th and 10th Council Elders to accompany him. They both agree and accompany him. He looks at Lee Hwa Myung and sees something in his hand, wondering what it is. Marikium arrives and sees Qin Yo-woon using the heavenly demonic sword art to attack him. Marikium observes that the sword technique uses a black sword, and he ponders whether that sword could be the Grand Guardian, noticing Qin Yo-woon attacking repeatedly. Qin Yo-woon senses Marikium's presence, looks at him, and wonders if he saw everything. The 4th Council Elder asks, surprisingly, what's going on here? He thinks he doesn't believe it because he defeated a martial arts master from the Six-Blade Martial School himself. The 10th Council Elder comes closer to him and asks if he is okay. Qin Yo-woon says he's fine, while Marikium says he's glad he's alright. He thanks Marikium for his concern. Qin Yu-jong also arrives there, and they all kneel in front of him. Qin Yo-woon thinks the Guardian clans are supposed to uphold the will of the Sword Demon, but he has heard that the Grand Guardian is the loyal right hand of the Lord. He looks at Marikium and thinks, what if he tells the Lord about what he just saw? He asks what happened, and Marikium replies that when he arrived, the Vice Lord had already eliminated the martial arts master from the Six-Blade Martial School. He thinks it was not a simple stab. It's as if multiple sword techniques had amalgamated into one, hiding this much skill, and he shouldn't underestimate him. The scene shifts to the underground vault of the Precious Library, where Qin Yu-jong and Marikium arrive and descend the stairs. Qin Yu-jong asks if they were after this place, stating he asks them if they were aiming for it. Marikium looks at him and confirms that he's correct. They proceed downstairs and see some burnt papers there. Qin Yu-jong thinks no way did they burn all the secret books of the Sword Demon. He reflects on the fact that there was such a place hidden in the Demonic Academy and considers that the enemies know a secret that even he was unaware of. He feels as though he has been taken lightly. Qin Yo-woon sits near the arm and leather, thinking he thought they were after the secret books because they mentioned the remains of the Sword Demon, but they were actually after the blade marks of the Blade God. He further believes that the man seemed to be aware of the 24 demon swords and wonders why people claiming to be descendants of the Blade God would want to possess the blade marks of the Blade God. He ponders what his true identity is within the six-blade martial school. He observes that turbulence has arisen in the demonic cult's castle due to today's incident, and all manpower is being focused on searching day and night to recover the bodies of the deceased warriors and to find any potential spies, but they have been unable to find traces of anyone other than those four men. The scene shifts to the heavenly demonic cult banquet hall, where a person remarks on how much longer they will be stuck there, and an old man responds, "Please be patient. They need to prove their innocence for the Alliance." The strategist asserts that they have already provided all the information they know, so a decision should be made right now. He requests that all of them be just a little more patient. An elderly individual acknowledges understanding, while another person indicates comprehension. She reveals that she finally remembers everything, reflecting on the fact that they used her in such a manner while traveling to meet up with two of the masters in Jiangxi after failing to recover Anhui. She recalls being ambushed by mysterious individuals upon regaining consciousness. She had been part of the procession of the Martial Alliance. Until the hypnosis wore off, she had mistaken her guards for enemies. She surmises that they targeted her as she was moving discreetly for the Alliance. She concludes that the only ones aware of her movements were individuals in the 17 Masters meeting, implying that one of the 17 Masters of the Martial Artists Alliance is a spy for the enemy. The strategist believes she needs to ensure that this alliance is formed and returns, but they are not going to release them from their detainment anytime soon since the Vice Lord was attacked. On the other side, Dr. Beek Zhang checks the patient's pulse. One of his students remarks that there's no problem. He responds that he sees that and considers that there might be some physiological changes since they were under hypnosis, but there's nothing different besides their pulse being a little slower. A cadet arrives and greets him. He asks how it went. The cadet replied that there was no poison or particular substance in any of the food or drinks at the banquet hall. Dr. Beek Zhang concludes that it's as he thought and thinks the Vice Lord suggested that there might be some substance that triggered the hypnosis, but it seems that he was wrong. Meanwhile, Chen Yo-woon arrives there and the cadets greet him, as does Dr. Beek Zhang. He thanks him for his hard work, and then Dr. Beek Zhang says they have looked through all the food and drinks at the banquet hall, but he doesn't think it contains any substance like he suggested. He asks if there is nothing in the food or the drinks, then Dr. Beek Zhang confirms that's correct. He thinks that if someone could actually trigger hypnosis with just a single clap, everyone at the banquet hall should have been hypnotized. He asks if he could take a look through, and Dr. Beek Zhang says of course, thinking that nothing was found after countless doctors inspected every dish personally, and the Vice Lord sure is stubborn. He considers that they found nothing in the food and wonders how they could use it for hypnosis. He realizes that in order to eat, he needs to touch his lips to cups and silverware. He asks the nanomachine if it can check for any poison or medicinal substance on them. The nanomachine says it understands and requests him to touch the plates and silverware with his fingers for substance analysis. A cadet looks at him, wondering what he is trying to do and why he is picking up the chopsticks and cups while setting the table, then turns towards them. Chen Yo-woon asks if they remember where they sat at the banquet last night. One of them confirms that he does, and then he instructs, except for the people who no longer have a seat due to broken chairs, please sit where he was yesterday. They all agree with him. One of the cadets asks what he is doing, and Dr. Beek Zhang also looks at them. He thinks that the seats of people from the Martial Alliance who were hypnotized have their cups filled by the Vice Lord. Chen Yo-woon asks him if he can smell the place on this cup where the lips are supposed to touch, and he gives a cup to him. The cadet takes the cup and smells it, saying this smells like a poppy. He thinks they rubbed poison on specific cups beforehand, but how did the Vice Lord figure this out? The scene shifts to the Lord's Manor in the training room of the heavenly demonic cult, where Chen Yu-jong completes his practice. His guards help him wear clothes and inform him that they have finished clothing him. He responds that's a good job. The scene shifts to Lord Manor's basement, where Chen Yu-jong arrives and touches the arm and leather, thinking it's similar to the blade energy he felt on that person. He considers the person who appeared right before he was about to take out the claw technique user at Zhejiang, and believes it's the one who wounded him with martial prowess beyond his imagination. He remarks that it seems it's not him to humiliate him like that, and taps his hand on the table in anger. Someone knocks at the door, and he asks who it is. He replies it's him, Marakiam. Qin Yuzhong states he'll meet him at the office, and Marakiam agrees and leaves. The scene shifts to Lord's office, where Marakiam arrives and states that he has concluded his report. Qin Yuzhong asks what he did with it. He replies that the jade bottles they sneaked out from the banquet hall were disposed of in the creek of Wujiao Peak, and no one will find them. Marakiam explains that they washed and smashed all the bottles before throwing them into the creek, so no one should be able to find them. Qin Yuzhong acknowledges his excellent work and thanks him, noting that thanks to him finding the bottles with poison before anyone else, their cult will be able to take the lead in this alliance. He asks if Dr. Baekjong and his men are still investigating. Marakiam confirms this, then adds that since they allowed the Vice Lord to be a part of the investigation while their strategist watched, they should have no rebuttal. He suggests sending the doctor away and placing the people from the Martial Alliance in prison. Marakiam agrees and states that Dr. Baekjong is requesting to have a word with him. He says it's an excellent time to let him in. He arrives and kneels in front of him, addressing himself in the presence of the Great Lord. Marakiam welcomes him and asks how the investigation went. Dr. Baekjong replies that they managed to discover the cause of the hypnosis. Dr. Baekjong removes the cover of the cup and states that it was an alcohol cup, revealing significant traces of poppy and other hallucinogens on the cups. Marakiam thinks, darn it, he only had time to switch out the bottles and to believe they'd bring the cups. Qin Yuzhong believes he should have told Dr. Baekjong ahead of time and reflects on his mistake of keeping him in the dark for the investigation to appear natural. He asks who discovered this. Dr. Baekjong replies that it was the brilliance of the Vice Lord who discovered it. Qin Yuzhong wonders what he means by the Vice Lord. Dr. Baekjong explains that when this substance is consumed, the person is put into a hallucinative state and becomes susceptible to hypnosis at the hands of someone proficient with illusory arts. Meanwhile, he mentions that there is something that concerns him, and it's the amount of drugs present. He explains that in order to be hypnotized, one has to consume a large quantity, but there is nothing wrong with the alcohol inside the jade bottles. The Vice Lord has hypothesized that they might have been swapped out, which is why he has personally gone to check the stock of jade bottles in the castle. Qin Yuzhong calls Marakiam and states that since the cause of hypnosis has been discovered, he may release the guests from their detainment. Regarding the Vice Lord, he tells Marakiam to stop his investigation. Marakiam bows and says as he wishes. Dr. Baekjong thinks to himself, so the Lord is concealing the fact and realizes he is going to report to him the possibility of a spy among the castle personnel in charge of checking the food and drinks, but it doesn't seem like that will be necessary now. The scene shifts to the castle kitchen, where Qin Yowun asks if the Lord ordered him to stop the investigation. Marakiam confirms this and explains that the jade bottles were concealed as requested by the Lord. Qin Yowun thinks to himself, so he planned this during all that commotion, realizing the Lord's strategic prowess, recalling how he used him as bait at the demonic academy. He wonders if the Lord knew of this plan from the beginning, and if it was also he who disposed of the jade bottles. Marakiam confirms this, while Qin Yowun suggests that, setting the cups aside, if it were him, he wouldn't have disposed of all the bottles. Marakiam asks for clarification, and Qin Yowun explains that if they could analyze and plan a response, they'd gain immunity to this tactic. He then grabs a kettle and apologizes for giving unsolicited advice, stating that he'll head out first. He thinks to himself that he thought it was a shame that the Lord's plan was foiled, but thinking forward, it might be better if they find more traces of the drugs. After a while, an old person laughs and says he's glad that the misunderstanding was resolved. Another person remarks that it's not like they're in a position where they can nullify the alliance and fight a war with them. The old person acknowledges his point. Meanwhile, the strategist thinks differently. She believes that with this incident, the cult could have had the upper hand in the alliance. She considers the fact that they've made this concession means that the Vice Lord, Qin Yowun, decided to pick the greater good over concealing the truth. She also reflects on how, if he hadn't stopped the plans of the Six-Blade Martial School, this place would have become a bloodbath. She concludes that he might be the most critical person of note in the demonic cult and promises that she will repay the debt of the martial artists' alliance with him. She thinks it has been 4 days since the attack by the Six-Blade Martial School, and the demonic Orthodox alliance was formed as intended. It was announced to all the cultists in the castle. However, considering the long feud between them and the traditional martial artists, it was not well received by the cultists. Chen Yuzhong says he heard they are all departing today. If it's just due to the response of the cultists, there's no need to leave so hastily. She explains that's not it. A matter they must attend to has come up, which is why they are departing earlier than intended. She expresses their thankfulness for his great hospitality. The old person wonders if there really is a spy within the Martial Artists Alliance, as the strategist said. There are definitely things that don't add up, and he thinks they need to return quickly and investigate. Meanwhile, she extends an invitation and says this is an invitation for the martial tournament from the head of the Martial Artists Alliance. Chen Yuzhong expresses gratitude and tells him that he will be attending since they are now allies, and she also thanks him. Marikium remarks that it is almost noon, and it's time for him to head to the Great Courtyard Proclamation. The elderly person says he appears to be busy, so they will be taking their leave now. He thanks him and says he wishes him a safe return, and thinks to himself, figures, who knows where the spy of the Six-Blade Martial School is lurking, and thinks they can't waste their time here. The scene shifts to the Flying Phantom Clan's guest house at 1:30 p.m., where Hyo Bong expresses disbelief and asks how everything was announced except their liege's ascension as the Vice Lord. Go Wang Hul acknowledges that Hyo Bong has a point and remarks that something seems strange. Sa Ma Chak explains that the proclamation at the Great Courtyard is supposed to announce important decisions made in the Excellent Hall meeting, and the fact that the appointment of the Vice Lord was left out is notable. H1 Yui questions whether this means that the Lord has perhaps had a change of heart. Go Wang Hul points out that the position of Vice Lord was claimed by their liege by winning in the Battle of the Heirs as well as securing witnesses, and he asks if that is something the Lord can overturn just because he feels like it. H1 Yui remarks that she's not sure if he's had a change of heart, but with the Lord's authority, as long as the 6 main clans don't object to it, there's no reason why he can't overturn his decision. Qin Yo-woon acknowledges this, saying that as long as there are no objections, he can renounce his appointment to the position at any time. She thinks he seems unfazed by it and believes he's acting like it doesn't concern him at all. She says she wants to tell him this later, but she thinks it's better. She says it now and explains that, as he knows, they have been working on recruiting the leftover forces of the Dark Clan. He replies that he's aware of that, then she says, but when they went back last night to contact them again, the Dark Clan's manor was utterly empty. He asks what she means by it was empty and asks if the remaining 4 clans made a move. She says he's only partially correct, then adds that the Lord's manor made a move. He asks if she means the warriors directly under the Lord, and says half of the remaining forces of the Dark Clan were placed with the Sword Clan, and the other half was placed under the Blade Clan. Sa Ma Chak asks if that means that the Lord personally strengthened the Sword Clan and Blade Clan and wonders if this isn't a clear sign that the Lord is keeping the Vice Lord in check. He disagrees and says this isn't simply to keep him in check, but to keep things in balance. Sa Ma Chak asks what he means. Then he replies that he's balancing the sides by strengthening the 2 clans to keep him in check, and the reason why he didn't officially announce his ascension at the Great Courtyard is to tell the 4 clans that they still have a chance. He says, in other words, he's goading him and the 4 clans into facing off. Hyo Bong inquires how the Lord can be doing such a thing, and H1 Yui thinks that he has seen through the essence of the Lord. The Lord they have observed has been a heartless man. She wonders why he has no attachment to his clan or even his own flesh and blood, and says everything has only served as pawns to strengthen and protect his power and authority. Moon Jae-yu thinks the Lord isn't their ally, while Ja Woo-min thinks about what they are supposed to do with this information. He responds he'd like to ask everyone present. Chin Yo-woon asks if they can trust him and follow him no matter what happens. They all become surprised, and he says there are currently many things wrong with their cult, and he'd like to return their cult to the way it was when the heavenly demonic founder first created it. Meanwhile, he asserts that even if it means having to oppose the current hierarchy of the cult, they should trust and follow him. Hyo Bong expresses his sadness that he even has to ask, stating that no matter what path they choose, he will always follow him. Go Wang Hul echoes Hyo Bong's sentiment, affirming that whether it is the path of an Asura or a thorny one that will leave him bloody, he will always follow him. They all declare their unwavering loyalty, stating that they will follow him no matter what. H1 Yui ponders what he will do now to face the remaining 4 clans in this situation. He confirms his decision, stating that they will have to cancel their previous plans. She asks if he has a better idea in mind and laughs. He explains that he wants to balance the sides, and he's going to disrupt that balance. She inquires whether he intends to go to the Dark Dragon Palm clan to increase their forces. He confirms that's the plan. She suggests that in that case, she will go see Mongo, the leader of the hallucinatory sword clan, along with Council Elder Sama Yui, noting that Council Elder Sama Yui and Council Elder Mongo are close friends who graduated from the Demonic Academy together. She thanks Go Wang Hull and states that she'll take Council Elder Yon and Moon Jiayu with her, asking if he can cooperate with the rest and recruit clans that are currently neutral. Hyobong offers to accompany him, but she refuses, insisting he stay. She observes that his eyes don't indicate he's going to back down. He concedes, allowing him to come along, and he becomes excited. He requests that they also take Beak Gi this time and asks if just the two of them will be sufficient. Beak Gi laughs and asserts that they will be more than enough, to which Go Wang Hull replies, make sure he looks after their liege well, Beak Gi gets irritated and retorts, acting like he's all that. The scene shifts to the northwest sector of the Heavenly Demonic Castle, specifically the manor of the Dark Dragon Palm clan, at the office of the clan leader, where a cadet arrives and announces that he has come to make a report as the guard in charge of security. The clan leader asks what the matter is, and he responds that the Vice Lord is requesting a meeting with him. The clan leader asks what this is about, and he instructs to call the director immediately and tell him to prepare the guest house. He emphasizes that the preparations must be perfect. The cadet agrees and leaves. Qin Yo-woon and his warriors arrive, and Moon Jiayu remarks that this place is her clan's manor. Hyobong also looks around and admires the surroundings, thinking, wow, it's fantastic. Even someone like me, who knows nothing about refinement, can tell this place is incredible. Moon Jiayu confirms that it really is, mentioning that her grandfather's sole hobby is gardening. Moon Yon approaches and introduces himself as the 8th Council Elder, offering greetings to the Vice Lord. He reciprocates the greeting. Moon Yon notices that Moon Jiayu is still wearing her mask and suggests that he personally take them to the guest house. He responds that he could have just sent a servant and expresses gratitude for the reception. A guard arrives, running and calls for Moon Yon. He asks what the matter is now. The guard reports that the 3rd Council Elder, the 4th Council Elder, and young Master Chinmaijiam are outside, requesting a meeting with him immediately. He is surprised and asks why they are all here. He responds that they are all here and he can do what's easiest for him. Moon Yon thanks him for his consideration and instructs the guard to bring them inside and into a different building, stating that he's going to first show the Vice Lord the way. The guard acknowledges and leaves. They all sit outside in the park to enjoy the beautiful natural scenery. Qin Yo-woon remarks that this place is gorgeous, noting that it's no wonder people say that Moon Yon is deeply attuned to the art of gardening. Moon Yon laughs and modestly says it's just something he does to pass the time and his compliments are too much. Meanwhile, Moon Yon announces that he has prepared a meal, suggesting they chat while they eat. Qin Yo-woon responds, thanking him for the warm welcome. Hyobong looks at the food and becomes excited, thinking that something has happened every time they've visited a council elder, but he guesses things will go smoothly this time. He recalls people saying that Council Elder Moon Yon has a granddaughter, and since Moon Jiayu is said to have a twin sibling, that granddaughter must be his younger sister. He hopes that Council Elder Moon Yon doesn't try to push his granddaughter onto their liege like what Council Elder Sama Yui attempted to do, and laughs. Moon Yon suggests they dig in and chat. The guard intervenes, stating he can't do this because there are other guests present, and tries to block his way. Chinmaijiam insists that this matter is urgent. Moon Yon looks at them and recognizes the 4th Council Elder, Spring Clan Leader Jiajiam Kaiyong, the 3rd Council Elder, Blade Clan Leader Bu Chiol-yan, and Spring Clan Vice Lord Candidate Chin Mujiam. He also looks at them, and Moon Yon gets up from his seat, saying, please excuse him for a moment. He goes to them and greets them all, stating that he had asked them to wait as he has guests who arrived first, and he questions the meaning of such discourtesy. Yajiam Kaiyong apologizes, stating that as a council elder of the cult, he couldn't help but come to greet the Vice Lord after hearing he was here, and he asks if they could take a moment to welcome the Vice Lord. Moon Yon responds, please go ahead, and they all proceed to Qin Yo-woon. While he is having a drink, they all arrive. Bu Chiol-yang greets him and introduces himself, and Yajiam Kaiyong also introduces himself and greets him. He looks at Chen Mujiam, who becomes irritated and thinks, damn it, he can't believe he has to lower his head to this lowly rascal and greet him as well. He states that he didn't think that he'd also have business with Council Elder Moon Yon and that he had something to discuss with him. Bu Qiaoyang acknowledges this and adds that they also have an answer they seek from Council Elder Moon Yon. Moon Yon asks what he means, and Chen Mujiam responds, please don't embarrass him like that, and asks if they sent him a messenger hawk recently or if he has already forgotten. Moon Yon attempts to refuse and say something, but Bu Qiaoyang quickly interjects, stating that he'd take it into consideration and explaining that young Master Chen Mujiam is here to meet his granddaughter personally. Moon Yon thinks to himself that he believes he'd consider it since it's rude to reject it flat out, and he reflects on how this is their response. He calls to him, asking if the opinion of the individual in question is essential for marriage. He laughs and agrees, saying he wants her to be able to decide for herself. Bu Qiaoyang thinks to himself that he's putting himself in a corner and acknowledges that one's opinions are important, but wonders if she will be able to say no while being confronted by the Lord's son. Meanwhile, Chen Mujiam looks at Moon Jiayu and wonders why she is stepping up as he walks towards him. Go Wanghul becomes shocked and asks if it could be an artificial skin mask. Moon Jiayu says to let her introduce herself to the young master and council elders, stating that she's the granddaughter of council elder Moon Yon Moon Jiayu. Beat Di is shocked to learn that Moon Jiayu is a girl, and Hyo Bong freezes upon hearing this, remembering that he was naked in the room in front of her, and he shouts. Chen Mujiam thinks to himself, damn it, why did he have to say those things to her at the demonic academy? Bu Qiaoyang remarks that he never could have imagined that such a beautiful lady would have been donning a mask, but he thinks if he had a granddaughter like her, he would make her do the same. Ya Jianqiang approaches Chen Mujiam and remarks that he sure is lucky to be getting to know a beauty like her. Moon Jiayu mentions that seeing young Master Chen Mujiam reminded her of what he told her back at the demonic academy. Ya Jianqiang laughs and comments that they are already acquainted, which is even better. Moon Jiayu explains that she kept turning down his offer, so he said that if he ever became the Vice Lord, he'd wipe out her Dark Dragon Palm clan, and she adds, thank goodness he didn't get to become the Vice Lord. He covers his face, and Ya Jianqiang asks what she means. Moon Yon questions if he wants to wipe out his clan. Bu Qiaoyang intervenes, saying he thinks the young master misspoke due to his young age, and he asserts that this can't be excused by saying it's a mistake. Ya Jianqiang asks if he really wants to make a mountain out of a molehill. Moon Yon responds that he sees no reason why he can't. Bu Qiaoyang intervenes, stepping between them and instructing them both to stop, withdrawing their fighting spirits. He acknowledges that he understands how he feels. However, he emphasizes that the words of young Master Chen Mujiam hold no gravitas as he was simply an immature cadet at the time. He adds that besides, there are no clans in the cult who would dare to cross the Dark Dragon Palm clan easily. By the way, he heard that Chen Mujiam has been searching for a talented doctor for a few years now. He thinks he didn't want to use this if possible since it'd have a use one day. He continues, stating that if his granddaughter and young master Chen Mujiam end up together, he will gift this as the dowry while showing him a badge. Meanwhile, Moon Yon looks at the badge and remarks that it's a medallion that allows one to meet the divine Dr. Bu Qiaoyang responds that as a council elder, he would never lie. Moon Yon asks how he can gift something as valuable as this as a dowry. Bu Qiaoyang explains that he was not able to tell him earlier, but the four main clans have all designated young Master Chen Mujiam as the successor of all their clans while extending his hand for a handshake. Moon Jiayu asks if he, as the successor of all four main clans, decides to make him their Vice Lord candidate, and she thinks that he knows that he pledged her loyalty to Vice Lord Chen Yo-woon, but with that medallion, he can treat her intellectual disability. Bu Qiaoyang thinks about him, knowing he wants people to be loyal without asking for anything, but they are offering him what he wishes, and the winner has already been decided. He asks Council Elder Moon Yon if he will allow marriage between his granddaughter and young master Chen Mujiam. Moon Jiayu holds Chen Yo-woon's hand and asserts that she already belongs to the Vice Lord. They all become shocked, while Chen Yo-woon also becomes surprised. Hyo Bong wonders when he and she ended up in such a relationship. While she communicates to him through sound telepathy, she apologizes to the young master, and she couldn't think of a way other than this. He thinks that's why she's doing this, while he looks at his jealous face and grabs her, pulling her closer to him. Chen Mujian clenches his hand in anger and curses him, thinking that on top of taking what's his once again, he's laughing at him. Yon Mu Hwa draws her sword and points it towards Chen Mujian. Ya Jium shouts how a lowly guard dares like her point her sword at him and asks if she does not know who he is. She responds that he is displaying killing intent towards the Vice Lord. He thinks to himself that he told him to stop being so hot-blooded, and he believes he's currently the only descendant who has all his limbs intact, so he needs to stop this no matter what. Chen Mujiam shouts how she dares point her sword at him and abuses her, attempting to grab her sword with his bare hand, but it cuts his hand, while Ja Jium Kyung stops him. He thinks about what this is and considers that he can't budge the sword of a mere guard, wondering who she is. He reflects that after Qin Yo-woon claimed the position of Vice Lord and killed Mu Jin-won and a martial artist of the Six-Blade Martial School, the remaining 4 clans felt greatly threatened by him. He thinks that's when the Lord gave them a silver lining and the hope that the Vice Lord could be changed at any time. Ironically, the only reason why Chen Mujiam was selected to be the successor of the 4 clans was because he was the only Vice Lord candidate with all his limbs still intact. He says she must have lost her mind. Bu Qiao-young thinks no. The Vice Lord shredded Mu Jin-won into pieces at the Great Hall simply because he threatened him, and this punk will definitely take advantage of this situation. Bu Qiao-young and Ya Jium-kyun kneel in front of Chen Yo-woon and say, "Please forgive young Master Chen Mujiam's foolish mistake and please show some mercy." Meanwhile, he questions why he should do that and orders them to kill him. Yon Mu Hwa agrees and attacks him, while Bu Qiao-young intervenes, saying no and runs to save him. He comes between both of them and asks her to stop. She attacks again, and Bu Qiao-young fights with her, thinking that someone with this level of skill is a mere bodyguard and wondering who she is. He moves closer to Chen Mujiam and points his sword at him, asking Bu Qiao-yang to stop. He remarks that it seems his order was taken lightly. Bu Qiao-yang pleads, "Please, Vice Lord," he understands. They'll give up on the marriage. Please stop, while pointing his sword at him. Bu Qiao-yang says they'll do whatever he wants them to do, so please put away his blade. He demands the handover of the medallion that can let one meet the Divine Doctor. Bu Qiao-yang believes that what he was aiming for is to ensure that saving Chen Mujiam takes precedence. He asserts that here it is, expressing hope that he can be merciful as he presents the medallion to him. Qin Yo-woon asserts that politics demands him to discern precisely what the other person desires and to provide it, thereby expecting an equivalent return. Bu Qiao-yang states that he will offer this as the dowry. Ya Jium-kyung communicates to him through sound telepathy that it's excellent and he has learned something today. He responds that politics dictates understanding precisely what the other person desires and providing it to them in order to receive something equal in return. Chen Yo-woon notes, however, that he still faces a loss with only this medallion. Bu Qiao-yang inquires, what does he mean? While Chen Yo-woon launches an attack on Chen Mujiam, cutting his hand. They are all shocked to witness this, and Bu Qiao-yang speculates that he planned this from the start, knowing that he is their successor. Chen Yo-woon asks if they have a problem. Ya Jium-kyung declines and expresses gratitude for his consideration while he grabs Chen Mujiam. He believes he has to restrain himself, and when Chen Mujiam displays killing intent toward the Vice Lord, he has the authority to execute him immediately, yet he refrains. He warns that if they push it any further, their own lives could be in danger. He states that Chen Mujiam is not in good condition, and they will head back now, taking him away. He thinks it's not over yet, Vice Lord. After a while, Chen Yo-woon approaches Moon Yeon and expresses his apologies for staining his garden with blood, but he hopes this gesture can be of assistance. Moon Yeon kneels down and presents him with a badge, expressing sincere gratitude for his boundless grace. He accepts the badge, remarking that it's nothing significant, as he has yet to meet the Divine Doctor, and there's no need for such formalities. Moon Yeon asks how he could not express gratitude when he's such a great benefactor to his clan. He reassures him it's all right and requests him to stand up. Moon Yeon contemplates how one man can possess such greatness and warmth, finding it difficult to believe that this is the same man who coldly severed the arm of young Master Chen Mujiam just a while ago. He acknowledges that it appears her judgment of people is better than his to have found such an outstanding husband. He declares, as the leader of the Dark Dragon Palm clan and the 8th Council leader, that from this moment onward, his clan will stand by him until his final breath. He expresses hope that he will accept his loyalty, to which Chin Yo-woon responds that this is what he expected from him. They all sit in the park, enjoying tea. Moon-yeon inquires about the timing of the wedding with his granddaughter. She calls him, and Hyo-bong congratulates him on his upcoming marriage. He wonders how he can explain this situation and considers that Chin Yo-woon and Moon Jae-woo had to invest a lot of time in clarifying the misunderstanding. He reflects that Moon-yeon was unable to conceal his disappointment upon learning the truth, but he didn't let that affect him. Judging by their response, it is clear that the two have a mutual attraction, and he should quietly observe how this situation unfolds. Moon-yeon summons a servant and instructs them to bring Moon-yu. He inquires as to why she is summoning his grandson. Moon-yeon questions how he can conceal things from him after all the assistance he has provided, and he reveals that he has a son named Moon-sung who was deployed to Sichuan province, where he lost his life in an ambush orchestrated by the forces of evil. His pregnant daughter-in-law experienced complications during labor due to the shock of hearing this news. He explains that Moon Jae-woo was fortunately born without any issues,
Slow, kamusta? Pogi yan, for sure.